Hi guys, like I always say, Dr. Ken Nordberg here again. uh, Last time I talked to you about precautions we take upon arriving at a stand site. And we talked about precautions taking between arrival and getting up to your stand seat and sitting down. All that, there's a lot more to come, a lot more to know, really. You can't believe how much more there is to know. But at any rate, I still have to talk about what you do when you hunt at ground level, like you do arriving at a stand site. And that's next. So here we are at our stand site. Like I said last time, you're not really a buck hunter or one that's liable to be successful unless you take a certain numbers of precautions and you're stand hunting. A stand hunter who does things right is a buck hunter. He is capable of taking the biggest bucks in the woods. Until he gets there though, he's not a buck hunter while he's walking to a stand site. That's the least successful way to take a big buck. Sometimes you get lucky when that happens, but not often. Only maybe one, two, or maybe even 3 times in a lifetime. Not in open range, not in woods that aren't fenced or something like that. No, this is out in the wilds or wilderness area. Deer are free to go anywhere they want. They can go 6 miles in one direction if they want. When you're hunting there, when you're hunting big bucks, these are the things you got to do. I've never hunted anywhere but on public property all my life. Never hunted on private property. And since 1990, my 3 sons and I, and now a little growing bunch of grandsons, only hunt on public land. And these are the things we do. To take bucks every year, mature bucks every year. So, and if you don't do these, you don't take mature bucks every year. This is what's taking them. Now, like I mentioned last time, if you're a guy who likes to hunt midday under certain weather conditions, when your odds are pretty good for taking deer and you only hunt then, that's fine. Maybe you don't have to do all these things under circumstances like that. You might be a guy that's got a stand site now, and geez, what a stand site, because look at the buck I got on the wall, he's an enormous thing. Obviously, now I know all about getting big bucks, and boy, that stand site's a dandy, and I'm going to get all kinds of them there. Let me tell you something about that. The big bucks in your hunting area are going to teach you a new lesson sooner or later, probably sooner. That stand site may only have been good for one hunt, and that's it, depending on what you did before and while you're hunting there and afterwards. Might have been only good for one. You might go there next year and not see a damn thing, or not seeing a mature buck. Or maybe you got a big hayfield. You bought this thing, it's 600 acres here, and there's a big hayfield, and you got a shack out there in the middle. Maybe in the old days they used it to store ice in a farm or something like that. Maybe it's a hay shed or something. And you bought this thing and you go out there and geez, in the fall, the deer come all over the place to feed in that field. And you've been taking some decent bucks there now for, say, 3 years. You say, oh, crap, you don't need to do all this stuff. I go out to my shack, I'm gonna get big bucks there forever. Well, you're gonna learn a big lesson about that too, because eventually you're gonna start thinking, I must have shot all the bucks that live around here. I don't see big bucks out in this field anymore during the hunting season. Something's wrong. It's guaranteed to happen. So, anyway, when you finally get around to saying, well, I gotta do something different, think about what you've been learning here on these, in my YouTube presentations. Well, anyway, back to the ground, not using a stool at ground level. And here's my stool. Now, When I arrived at my stand site, no tree involved, no special tree, no tree stand. I don't have to climb up there. I don't have to worry about being seen or not seen when I'm climbing up there, or making noises, climbing up there, or stepping on my stand, having some big squeak, every buck in the area, another deer. No, oh, there's a human over there. I don't have any of that happening. Because when I get there, all I have to do is put my stool silently on the ground, and it's ready to go. And I'm ready. I can sit on it. I'm ready to go. And the spot that we're expected to see the buck is right over there. It was about maybe 25 yards. The trail there, when I went through here, let's say I was heading out there, there's heavy snow on the ground like right now. And I come along on some really fresh tracks. And I look at them. I've been doing this so many years, I've been measuring tracks of all sizes of deer and ages since the 1960s. I looked at it, it's a big one. Look at that there, 4-inch tracks, not counting the dew claws. And big, well, I'm being quiet because, geez, what could be around here. But anyway, big tracks, and it's heading toward the feeding area where I was going. So, anyway, this is exciting. Oh, he's over there right now feeding. They start feeding 4 hours before first light, and I'm going to get over there. I'm going to get there silently, and I put the stool down. The spot I got picked might be a place where there's lots of brush, just thick brush. You can hardly see through that mess, and I'm going to be right in the middle of it. Or I got a lot of woody plants like red osiers and mountain maples and hazels, just thick. And there I am. And behind it, I got big evergreen trees, or a hillside, or a great big boulder, or lots of trees. Thick cover behind me. That's the best way to hide the human silhouette, is to have a solid background behind you, because your silhouette won't stand out. If you've got a lot of snow on the ground, you know, being snow-light by having an open area behind me and all kinds of snow is as bad as being skylighted up in a tree. You got to have that solid background. So that was one of the things that was on my mind when I selected this. I thought, wow, it's a good spot. My silhouette is not going to be easily spotted. It's dark, no matter what you're wearing. It'll be dark against snow or dark against the sky, and it's big. And if it moves, that's because of its size, it's easy to spot. You don't want that. So I got good cover in front of me. A lot of times, I'll have a little evergreen there. I've shot several big bucks while I was seated in deep cover, like deep grasses, even just deep grass all around. But here's this one little evergreen, 6 feet tall, sitting there. Sit down behind it. Well, got good cover all around me, and solid cover behind me. Got forest cover back there, and I got this evergreen. And if I have to be able to see through there, I'll maybe get out my hunting knife and whittle off a branch right on the trunk, so I can put my gun through the tree and take aim. And the tree gives me a nice steady base for aiming. I'll get it ready, you know, for hunting here. And I got these things. Sometimes it's a big fallen evergreen I'll get down, and I like big fallen trees for natural blinds. But a lot of times when you're using one of those, you know, your head's got to be up there where you can see, and I don't want it to be too visible. And it's kind of really a must. Well, that's actually a must even when you're sitting in a tree. The bright skin of my face and my white beard would be like the moon coming up when it's seen against natural cover. Easy for deer to watch. Even if you're not moving and they see that bright thing, what is that? There's no other thing like that around here. No bright thing with that white skin and that beard. What is that? That's not something. That's not right. That looks like a human there. So, if you're buck hunting, it's absolutely necessary to wear a head net. Absolutely. Or a mask, camel mask, to hide the skin on your face. That's the part that's got to stick up, got to be partially exposed or wholly exposed when you're hunting buck. You've got all kinds of cover to hide your body. Sometimes so thick you can actually sit back and stretch. I like to lean against a tree trunk wherever I sit. I don't always have a tree trunk. Sometimes I sit behind the tree trunk and lean forward, use the tree trunk to steady my aim, press it against the tree. But I got those things there. Quite often, only preparation I have to do is go over there and kind of take a boot and scrape some dead leaves away from the spot, or stamp down some grass, so I can go in there and put my stool down, sit down, and there's plenty of room for my feet to move around without making a lot of noise. So here I am. Like sometimes I've used a little pine tree even for that purpose. But anyway, I'll get down there. Of course, when you put a head net on, you want to have your cap on top, like blaze orange, or if you're bow hunting, it's probably not quite as important, but certainly important when you're gun hunting, because somebody coming through the woods and see there's something moving there. Is that a deer? Might take a shot at you if you don't have your blaze orange cap on top. But it should be camo blaze orange. Then it's not as visible. It's still visible to hunters and deer, especially if it's moving. But if it's stationary, that's no problem, because they see splashes of bright colors in the woods all the time wherever they live. There's a lot of trees that have red and orange, leaves in the fall, and even after snow is on the ground, there's some trees like red oaks still have their leaves on them. They keep their leaves all winter. So that's not unusual to see. A splash of red out there like you would have on your head. And especially if it's broken up because it's camo blaze orange. But that's on your head now. Now sticking up. Even then, I've had deer spot me when I moved. I was sitting there and I was turning my head and look. Oh, there's one standing right over there and looking right at me. It's got me pegged. I hate that when that happens. Well, if I've got a spot where my head is fully exposed where I sit, I don't have something up here at face level to kind of hide my motions, which I got to make, because I got to look over here and look over there, and I can do it really slowly. But that's the part that deer are going to see if they're close. So what I like to do is, like a fallen tree, I'll take a evergreen bough off of a tree. I always carry a pruner with me. Actually, when I go out hunting, it's in my bag, and I'll silently slice out this evergreen bough and stick it up there, maybe stick it into between branches on this fallen tree, or a blind I made out of natural things just piled up. I'll stick it in there so it sticks up in front of my head. I can see through it just fine. But from the other side, there's not much for a deer to see. So I like to lay something up there or stick it in there and have it stick out. That won't look unnatural at all to a deer. And it keeps my head from being easily seen if I'm moving it and don't realize there's a deer right over there. So, and it helps a lot too when you're getting ready to fire. So getting your bow up to take a shot, or your gun up to take a shot. So nice thing about using a stool is, I'll have several spots, maybe 3, 4 picked out before the season starts. Scouting, I really like this spot. Never used it before. Those are the best spots for taking big buck. The buck has never seen a hunter sitting there, standing hunting. Never discovered one there, ever. And he comes along, very first time. I didn't change anything when I got there, and I'm all hidden. I sit on my stool silently, and it looks the same way it did the day before, the week before that. And the buck sees nothing unusual when he walks to within sight of where I'm sitting. This is all brand new. I've caught him by surprise. That's what I like to do. When you use never before used stand sights, you're catching them by surprise all the time. They never found you there before unless you do, and they aren't going to find them now if you do things right. Take right precautions. I'm talking about precaution after precaution here. So I'm sitting there. So I've got that. And then I wear dark gloves on my hands, jersey gloves if it isn't too cold, thin gloves that cover the skin of my hand, because when you're getting ready to fire, even with a bow, here your hands are. They're as bad as a bare face when you're facing a big buck right over there. No, you don't want those hands waving around. You know, I'll talk more about this later, but there's things you should know about bow hunting. You should never stand up. You know, here you are, you got a buck out in front of you, and you think, and the only way you know how to shoot is standing up. You go to the shooting range and you stand up all the time, and some of you can't even come to a full draw without raising your elbow up here and going like this. You've got to learn to shoot from a sitting position. When you go shooting range, it asks you to use a folding chair. Sit out there and start shooting. You know, you got to turn your seat's got to be facing over to one side like that with the bow, because the lower limb is going to be down here, probably a little lower or close to your stand platform. It's going to be right there. So if you're sitting like this and you shoot a bow straight on like this, you aren't going to get a full draw. Yeah, it's right over there. You can't get it back there and get a full draw when you're shooting straight on. You got to do it like you do at the range, where you're standing sideways like this and shooting. Then you get a full draw. If you don't get a full draw, you won't get full penetration. You won't get an exit one. I'll talk a lot more about that in the future presentation. That's terribly important when you're bow hunting. So anyway, your stand's got to be pointed, whether with a gun or a bow or with a stool. So you're looking this way, in the place where you expect to see deer is right over this way. So that when you come, you know, if you're going left, it's the opposite way if you're a left-hander. But when you come to draw, it's easily over here. And with a bow, you're not going to be bumping into your stand, your portable stand or branches. And we'll talk more about that next time, but that's important. But anyway, one of my favorite stands years ago was in front of a great big boulder. And want to talk about a wonderful backdrop where you hide your silhouette. That works. I've had a little evergreen on the side of a hill, a solid hillside behind you as a backdrop. Bow hunting, sitting at ground level. There's lots of ways you can have a solid background, but always remember, a solid background is more important, really, than what's in front of you. It's nice to have stuff in front of you, and when you're bowing, you got camo on, and headband on, and gloves on, and you got your private blind, you're wearing it. And so you don't need a lot of stuff in front of you to be invisible to deer if you're not moving. If you're not moving, my son John has one of these ragged camel blankets or cloths that's big enough, and he likes to, when he's standing, he'll get out of his pack and put that ragged blanket around his waist and it's hanging to the ground, keeps his feet hidden. And he swears he's seen a lot of bucks up close, and I know he's passed up some pretty decent 8-pointer that were really close that never saw him at all. And he was just behind a little tree here. It might be snowing or something, and he never noticed him. That ragged cloth really helped to keep him invisible and probably gave him a little extra comfort too on a cold or windy day. So I'm going to start using one. A lot of times, you know, you just can't find the right tree laying down at the right spot. Sometimes the best camo you got, the best natural cover you got is kind of sparse, and putting that around your waist when you're sitting down adds a lot to making you invisible at short range when you got buck. And you want to have a little tree in front of you and something like that, or a tree trunk. So anyway. But that Stool not only enables me to hunt wherever I want, places I've never hunted before. You come after, let's say on Monday, opening week of deer hunting, starting Monday, I'm looking for new spots all the time. And noon, when most deer are bedded, except on days when you might have a midday feeding cycle, which follows certain kinds of weather. And so I'm not doing this then, but we have certain trails we use to look for fresh buck signs, so we know where to hunt next and tomorrow morning. And we do that every day. We all do that. Coming back from our, heading back to camp and our stand side approach trails, and we have these big trails we talk about that we call cruise trails. We come across bucks, oh, here's a big buck, and oh yeah, he's with a doe in heat, because there's 3-inch tracks accompanying him. The 2 deer went up to this feeding area, so boy, that's where I'm going to be this evening. Or you're coming back and that's where we're going to be in the morning. I'm going to be there half hour before first light tomorrow morning, and that's because those deer are going to be in that doe. You got to do it quick, because that doe is not going to be in heat forever in only 24 hours or so. So anyway, so I'm out there at noon and I'm heading back to camp, and I'm on that cruise trail away from where I was hunting in the morning, and there's fresh tracks of a big buck there. Now this is the area where a big buck is active right now, and it's going to be within the range of a doe. And if the doe is in heat, it's going to be in this range for 24 hours, unless I screw up and I alarm that buck, or someone else does, and he abandons the area. But he's going to be with this doe, and this is where I'm going to hunt during the next 24 hours, or maybe only 12, like this afternoon and then tomorrow morning. That's where I'm going to hunt. Or I might find 2 sets of big tracks, one way over that way. I'll hunt this one this evening. I'll get out here about 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, plenty early, well before they get here, so they're not going to hear and see me get there and get settled into a stand side. And one over there, I'll hunt that one tomorrow morning. See, and I got that all in mind. So anyway, look at all the advantages provided by a stool, and I can do this every day until I get a buck. And I've shot quite a few bucks opening morning because of all the things we do in the scouting. We'll get down to more nitty-gritty on scouting and future hunting, future presentations. But now, we're at the same spot. I didn't have to climb up there to get to my stand site. I've arrived here, and now I'm sitting on my stool. And you know why I'm here on this spot. I won't hunt any place but within easy shooting distance of very fresh tracks or droppings, or a fresh ground scrape, or a feeding area where there are very, very fresh buck tracks and doe tracks and fawn tracks. But in a feeding area, those are the only places I'm going to hunt. Only. I can't, if I had to go out somewhere and say, oh, this looks like a good spot, and sit there and those things weren't there, I wouldn't be able to stand it. I'd be nuts to be somewhere else. What the heck am I sitting here for? I got to find a place where I'm going to see a big buck, where my odds are going to be pretty good, and it has to be where those fresh tracks are now. And so, there you go. That's my next presentation of what precautions you take upon arriving and sitting down on your stool. Next, we're going to talk about precautions after you sit on your stool or your stand seat. That comes up next. So, thanks guys for coming back to watch. And I know I'm doing you a lot of help here. These tips are going to work. I know they're going to work. So, take these seriously. And thanks again, by the way, for buying my books. Guys, it's such a nice feeling to check my emails every day. Oh, I just got another set. Oh, there's another one. This guy orders 2. One for his brother, too. That kind of thing. That makes my life in the wintertime. So, thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. I'll see you again soon.